Hi everyone. If you can hear some noise in the background, it's because I'm doing laundry. Marsha the Great here. Um, okay. So I refuse to say that thing's name. I refuse to say that thing's name. So Voldemort's passing, um, is really like the, oh my God. The way people are responding to his death is crazy. So on the September 10th, of course, Voldemort died. I think it was like a day or two after that, that a Fox News anchor, I didn't know this at the time, that a Fox News anchor called Brian Kilmeade basically said about homeless people, just kill them. He suggested lethal injection for mentally ill homeless people. It explains why the man who killed Josh in New York was treated as a hero by Donald Trump. It would certainly explain a lot. Between that and RFK talking about putting autistic and neurodivergent people in camps rather than them having medications or injections, Brian Kilmeade is not joking. That is exactly what they're planning. Hell, that's what they've been planning over here. But over here in the UK, there are two things that the UK have an advantage in. The first thing is that they slowly and incrementally take away more and more liberties or more and more facilities from disabled people, right? So that they die in greater numbers, right? Or we die in greater numbers. That's the first thing the UK do. The UK acts slowly. They act so slowly that before you know it, certain things have already happened. That's the first thing they do. Second thing they do is they don't talk about it. So, they could be doing the exact same thing that Brian Kilmeade is talking about. We can make satire of it over here. And yet, the Conservative Party or even the Labour Party or, any of the parties involved in far right thinking, they can just deny because everything is happening so slowly. I can't remember who it was that said that not enough people were infected with that thing, right? There was a conservative dame at the time of COVID saying that not enough people were infected. Yeah, it's just like I said before, it was all about the cull of surplus populations through illness over here in the UK and poverty, and through just straight up murder, straight up mass murder in the case of what Brian Kilmeade is suggesting. But again, over here in the UK, there's already been a slow burn towards that. You've got targeted individuals and mentally ill people being overdosed with medications over here. There was one guy called Adam, I can't remember his surname, black gentleman. He was being overdosed with 8 times the recommended amount of medications as he was sectioned. So everything that Brian Kilmeade is suggesting, the UK is already doing. The UK is already doing it. They just don't talk about it because the UK are, you have to remember, this is a country that colonized 90% of the planet at one time. If anybody knows how to self-preserve and if anybody knows how to commit genocide without people being any the wiser, it's the fucking UK. And our government knows how to place more in order to facilitate these things happening so that nobody's any the wiser. I think the UK will be far worse than the US for the simple reason that the US government and whoever's in power, they feel, especially anyone right wing, they feel the need to show how strong and mighty they are at all times, which means that the American people will be like, you know what, fuck this shit. What's good? Do you understand what I mean? America can fight back and will fight back because they have an identifiable target. But in Britain, there are no identifiable targets here, meaning that because everything is done incrementally, there is no like one singular person that we can really blame, and no one singular person that we can really pour all our rage on. We can have scapegoats, but it's not the same, because everything is done incrementally. Nobody's talking about it. There's a culture of secrecy when it comes to gang stalking. You know, when it comes to your gang stalkers, you can't pull up information about them. Like, there's no Freedom of Information Act over here, so you can't pull up all kinds of information about your gang stalkers in the same way you can do America. And these laws that are supposed to protect innocent people, they actually do protect abusers, because you can't pull up your abusers in the same way. And even if you could, the likelihood is that you wouldn't be able to pull up people gang stalking you. The gang stalker could more likely pull your details up and scapegoat you. Do you understand what I mean? I know what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not explaining it very well. But my point is that everything that Brian Kilmeade is talking about, the UK is already doing, and the US is getting ready to do. They're just telling you, and they're just warning you now, because again, the UK government, especially the right-wing UK government, no, the US government, sorry, and the right-wing US government in particular, they always feel the need to show their muscle. So when Brian Kilmeade says what he says, they're absolutely not joking. You know how I know that? Because he hasn't been fired from Fox News. He's talking about lethally injecting homeless people. He hasn't been fired. In the same way that 50,000 people who appeared to celebrate Kirk's death are being put on a watch list, and yet the 70,000 people, or the 70,000 men that were sharing great tips with one another on how to abuse women, were not put on a list at all. You've got journalists that have already been fired for using Charlie Kirk's own words in public. And you know why they're doing that? Is because they're planning to do everything that he was talking about. They're planning to, use that rhetoric to further marginalize Black, brown, and trans people, and queer people, and disabled people. That's why anybody who uses Charlie Kirk's own words or speaks out against Charlie Kirk is fired, because they're planning to implement a lot of things that he suggested. And in order to do that, they have to try to make people forget what he actually said. So that's what the US is doing. And then again, they're not doing very well. They're not doing that very well, because now everybody's more determined than ever to be like, Charlie Kirk said this. So the more you fire people, is the more people keep talking. The more you take away their communications, the more they go underground. The far right don't seem to understand that the same way you gain power is the same way you lose it. When you drive people underground, when you make it a fringe belief that everybody should live in peace, and that everybody should live in harmony regardless of their skin color, that everybody should be judged on the meritocracy of their work and the content of their character, when you make that belief go underground, it means it's not seen. And if it's not seen, it can't be stopped. That's what the far right don't seem to understand. The same way you gain power is the same way you're going to lose it. Because in case you haven't noticed, there are people on our side who have forgotten people too, who have fringe people too. And now that the far right are increasingly going out of their way to drive us underground. Yeah. And, and the weird thing about it is that the far right, thinking that they're going to just kill us off, it's gonna somehow help them. If anything, it's gonna make their case worse. If anything, it's going to lessen their power base, because there's power in sacrifice. There's always power in sacrifice. It doesn't matter who's doing it. So, them thinking that killing everybody off on the progressive side or silencing them is automatically gonna cement their win forever is not only is it deranged, psychotic, and horrifying, it's also delusional, not realistic. Okay. But yeah, That's what's going on with the Charlie Kirk thing. That's why so many people are silencing anybody who talks about Charlie Kirk, or anybody appears to not be sad enough about his death. They're basically, the far right is the new mainstream now, and they're driving the rest of us underground. That's essentially what's happening. And I did talk about how these people want to enslave and kill. The far right is a death cult. Like I said before, they're a death cult who pray to gods older than we know about, and who are willing to do things for power that we're too moral to even contemplate. Know what I mean? Let alone all this, making hit list shit. You have no idea what these people are prepared to do for power. We've literally witnessed them kill their own and then try to lie about it. We've witnessed them do that. If they're willing to do that in public, imagine what they're willing to do in private. Imagine what they're willing to do in private. And the conservatives, they hoodwinked so many white TIs, well, not just white TIs, but conservative TIs. They hoodwinked so many of us, not us, because I'm not conservative, but they hoodwinked so many conservatives among us with the medication stuff, and with, they hoodwinked us into thinking that they actually cared about our rights, that they actually cared about the side effects of medication, when really all they wanted to do was genocide the disabled. I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, all they wanted to do was genocide the disabled, or genocide any disabled that weren't useful. Like I said, like I've been saying for fucking like decades now, it'll be more than a decade on social media. And I'm going to expose my neighbors upstairs, even though I'm going to be honest, right? They're only kids. I shouldn't even be saying this shit. But one of the children upstairs, upon hearing that the Fox News anchor wants to kill all homeless people, and, especially mentally ill homeless people, upon hearing that, this perp said, because unfortunately the child is a perp, this perp said that I'm homeless and they're not, so they don't have anything to worry about. I just want to remind you all that I'm putting a kid on blast. So I already know that I've lost this argument, but I just want to point out that mentally ill disabled people, from my life in particular, have made up a good chunk of my perps. And right now the situation is that, both me and the perps, we are all living, within council housing at the moment. I mean, it's not council housing technically, but we're all housed by the council. And literally all of us are one paycheck away from not even having that. Somebody like me, I'm on transitional payment until April. Once that goes, I'm £200 less off per year. People on universal credit live on the most meager pay here. And with that meager pay, rent's going up, bills are going up, grocery is going up. Everything's going up whilst the income that we have is going down. I want to pose this to the child upstairs, but I want to pose this to everybody, right? If costs are going up, but income is going down, or the line of inflation is cheapening the pound or cheapening the dollar, what exactly do you think happens to you? What exactly do you think happens to you? And what does it say about your character that you would want somebody that you believe is homeless and you've called mad and mentally ill? Like, What does it say about your character that you would want somebody lethally injected or want somebody killed because they're right about everything? What does it say about your character that you're willing to hex people for being happy rather than to turn your rage towards the people who are harming your family, that are recruiting your family to be scapegoats and to be set up? What does it say about your character that you're okay with, somebody being lethally injected if they annoy you for being right? First of all, what does that say about you? Second of all, what makes you think that you and your family are exempt? You're not exempt from this. You never will be exempt from this. Perps have already been killed. You have to understand. Perps have already been tortured and killed under the same program that targeted individuals are under. You are not exempt. Even the wealthier among the perps have been getting cancer, have been getting like STDs. There was one particular trafficker who got syphilis. You are not exempt. And the fact that you would wish that on people just for being right, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to, I've said it all yesterday off camera, but I want you to think about what kind of person that makes you, that genocide is okay with you. I want you to think about what kind of person it makes you to talk about genocide just because somebody else is right. I want you to think about wanting to curse all black people just because you don't like one black person. I want you to think about, the fact that you're okay with with mentally ill people and homeless people being lethally injected, as long as I'm one of them. I want you to think about those two things, and I want you to think about what kind of person that makes you and how safe you think you are. Because you don't seem to be getting how severe this is, and you don't seem to be getting how bad it is. My love, perps have already been killed. You are not exempt. Consequences don't just happen to people. I have to say, progressives, consequences don't just happen to bad people. They don't just happen to villainous people. And for the far right side, consequences don't just happen to people who hurt your feelings. Consequences are consequences. Consequences are neutral. They happen regardless. Consequences are nothing but the results of our actions, and that is it. They are the results of how we made one another feel. Consequences are neutral. They don't just happen to people that you want it to happen to. They happen to everyone. They happen to everyone. Just like this mentally ill, homeless people being like lethally injected, like the Americans are proposing, and like the UK is soft launching into. It doesn't just affect progressives. Sure, they'll come after us first, but it doesn't just affect progressives. It affects progressives and conservatives alike. And far from making the world better, it will actually make the world 1,000 times worse. 1,000 times worse. I want you to think about what kind of person that makes you. And I want you to think about why you have become so consumed with hatred for somebody that you don't know a hole in the wall. Why, like how you've gotten this far gone now. And you're doing the same thing that the far right are doing. Because everybody hates you for stuff that you've done, not just you, but your family. Because everybody hates you for stuff that you've caused and for stuff that you've done. Instead of taking it out on the people that hate you, you are causing grief and stress to the people who love you because they keep telling you to stop what you're doing and you refuse to do it. You refuse to stop. So you and your family are causing pain to your loved ones. The world hates you for how you treat people. So you're taking it out on the people that you love the most. And then you are taking your problems out on the easiest target, which is me. But, you know, you keep sidestepping the fact that your treatment of me is why people don't like you. People don't like people who want to curse all black people for the consequences that you faced for your hatred of one black person. People don't like people like that. People don't like people who, you know, who say, you know, it's okay that she's lethally injected and that she's, you know, because she's homeless and she's mad. So it's okay that she gets it because she's right and she hurt my feelings. People don't like people like that. Everything that you're doing is the exact same principle that the far right has with what they do. And just like it's not going to help them in the long run, it's not going to help you in the long run. Fascism, you know, if you look at history, fascism tends to burn out very, very quickly. Very, very, like open fascism, like we've always had fascism, but open fascism burns out very fucking quickly. Very, very quickly. Because when you are open with your fascism, you give people clear choices. When you make your fascism less obvious, you know, and you make people feel like they have more choices than they do, they'll follow you to the end of the earth when you do that shit. But when you, like in a time of fascism, the choices that you have are clear. And as terrifying as that is, it also, you know, when you push people far enough out of fear, and I'm sure you understand this because you've been afraid of me for how long? And it started with a laugh, right? So you know this better than anybody. When you put people in enough fear, when people are afraid of you enough, that fear turns into resentment. The same way you resent me, the same way you resent me for being right, for being angry when I'm supposed to be angry, for being like, you know, for having the bear poked over and over again. The same way you hate me for that and you resent me for that, you resent me for how scared I make you feel. The wider public will eventually become resentful over how scared the far right make them feel. People will eventually get resentful of that and fight back. They're going to say, fuck the genocide. Fuck the violence. I don't care what they do. I'm willing to fight. Sometimes the more you poke a bear and the more you push them into a corner, is the more likely they are to fight back, because again, the choices are clear. The choices available are clear. And at that moment, it becomes about what you are willing to do in line with your integrity or in line with your survival. Those are the choices that fascism reduces you to. And the same way you resent me for being black and laughing too loud and me being angry when I'm supposed to be angry is the same way the far right will be resented. Is the same way the far right will become vicious. No. The same way that people, you know, you've become vicious and vindictive with me is the same way that people will become vicious, vindictive, like persistent with the far right. And the far right know this. That's why they're already working towards creating lists and sending rabid dogs after anybody who disagrees with their viewpoints. Because they've been studying history. They know. Because enough fear in the world creates resentment. The same way that the far right have been resenting anyone black or brown, anyone Muslim or Jewish, anyone who is pagan or heathen, anyone who is a woman, anyone who is queer, anyone who is trans, anyone who's an immigrant, the same way that the far right have become vicious, vindictive, determined, because narcissism never quits, is the same way that people will respond to fascism, because fascism thrives in fear, and fear is very short term in terms of power. I mean, the legacy can last, but like the actual fascism being in power, it doesn't last very long. Not open fascism. So the same way you gain power is the same way you're going to lose it. And that's the truth. The same way you gain power is the same way you're going to lose it. And that's to you and your family. Again, I'm addressing a kid right now. So it's, again, I've already lost the argument. And again, like a lot of this is going to go over their head. But if they don't understand it now, they'll understand it when things predictably go even further right or wrong. Far wrong. So, like I said, you have won, but this is what your victory means. It means your light burns faster. And that master you're supposed to obey, that master is not loyal to you. That master does not like you. Because the colder your heart grows and the more bodies you throw in front of it that don't mean anything to you, is the more resentful your master becomes. And your master is not God. The light burns faster. Obey your master. I take it out of context. It's actually a song about addiction, but in this particular case, yeah, the old gods that you throw bodies in front of that you don't care about, they don't fucking like you. They don't fucking like you. I can tell you that now for nothing. So keep on. You keep coming after me as if I'm the one you got to worry about. There's always a bigger bitch and a bigger monster coming from the back after you. And you're going to learn that when you're an adult. And your family are going to learn that, even though they're adults already, and they should have learned by now, they're going to. There's always a bigger, a more terrifying entity coming up after you. And guess what? It's not going to be me. Because if it was, it wouldn't be sufficient punishment. If it was me, it wouldn't be sufficient. So that's the brutal truth about how the world works. The same way you gain power is the same way you lose it. The same way I made you scared just by existing is now the same terror I feel from having to share a planet with God knows how many people. Like literally fast forwarding the Holocaust in the name of a fucking podcaster. Congratulations, you've won. But as any winner will tell you, being a winner carries a lot more responsibility than being a loser. When you're a loser, you get to regroup and you get to focus on yourself. When you're a winner, that comes with all kinds of responsibilities that a lot of people aren't fucking ready for. Comes with the crash of dopamine from knowing that even after you get what you want, you're still not happy. Enjoy that. Enjoy that victory. And as for the rest of the Logans, again, you won. I did say that. I said that to you when you were, I said that to you when you kept coming back as like different YouTube users to try to shut me up at the behest of the gang stalkers that you work for. And it's not just the Logans. Like, there are other people around here who are gang stalkers too. I won't say who they are, but you know who they are. They have to suffer the same fate that you do. The same way you gain power is the same way you fucking lose it. Simple things. And there's like, there are so many other things I could say. There's so many other things I could say, but I'm just going to leave it here. I'm just going to leave it here because, I mean, I've already made myself into the bad guy, so it's okay. Like, I was already villainized. I might as well fucking fully play the role, right? Fuck it. Might as well. Might as well. And it doesn't bring me any pleasure to say any of this shit. It really doesn't, because what I'd rather not happen is genocide in the fucking first place. I'd rather that not happen. And the thing is, when open fascism wasn't happening, I was the biggest loser out of everybody. I was the one. I was the dropout, college, uni dropout. I was the mentally ill, mad one. I was the one who had hygiene issues because of my depression. I was the one when people weren't being genocided or people didn't feel afraid all the time. That's who I was. It's not that I want to go back to being that person, but hell, I'd rather that than what's happening right now. I might be a better person during this time. I might be a better person. I might be more ambitious. I might be freer. I might be happier in and of myself as a human being. But I'm transforming into this person at a time where people are literally being genocided. And it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. Fucking sucks. Like, why couldn't I be a better person when everybody else was happy too? And like, again, it's not like I want to suffer. It's not like I want that, but it's just, I hate it. I have survivor's guilt. I hate it. This is not a win for me to sit here and tell you that, genocide is coming and that you're going to suffer because of a monster, an even bigger predator than yourselves. It doesn't give me joy to say that shit. I don't like coming on video and saying that fucking shit. I really don't. This is a reality I would rather not happen. Me hurting your feelings, you don't seem to fucking get it. Me making you afraid is not a victory for me. Me making you feel bad about yourself is not a victory for me. The victory is for you to stop. That's the victory. The victory is that people don't end up being genocided for nothing more than mental illness that was caused by society in the first place, and homelessness that could easily be solved by these rich dickheads basically using their tax breaks to fucking house the homeless. These are things that don't need to happen. These are things that are not even being suggested. They're already happening. They don't need to fucking happen. None of this is necessary. And if somebody would have stopped you and people like your family, We wouldn't be looking at this shit right now. We wouldn't be looking at homeless people being criminalized already. Tent cities being criminalized already. Where are homeless people supposed to go? Well, Brian Kilmeade had a solution. That's your solution. That is what your behavior has led to. So you leaving people alone, you stopping being so fucking obsessed with your hatred, that would have been the victory. To prevent the genocide of mentally ill and homeless people, and to prevent the genocide of God knows how many people, that would have been the win. But no, your hatred just has to come before everything else. Literally everyone else has to suffer because of your hatred and your pride, you and your family. I'm done.